One of the reasons I took a pause was because it was extremely difficult for me to do it as a solo founder. And one of the things I was looking for were partnerships in that year gap of like, if I could find the right people, I would wholeheartedly dive back into this, but it's been too difficult to do on my own. So one thing that I've struggled with is, what are the green lights? Like, how do I know I've found the right person to work with on this idea specifically?
You have a ton of great questions today and a ton of questions that you really have to unpack. Green lights in finding partners. I think one of the things to do is first list out what you need in a partner before seeing somebody, what you can contribute so you can clearly articulate, because it's hard to find what you don't know. You don't have a clear definition of what your needs, your weaknesses, your strengths. It's really hard to figure that out if you're doing that on the fly. So what do I need in order to get this in life? Now, when you're looking at partner, I'm always going to go back to matrices, right? There are different factors, right, you're looking for. Number one for me is character. Who is this person? Can I trust this person? Still, I highly suggest having a legal agreement, having things set up. But the character of the person, can you trust this person? Are they respected by others? Have they shown up? Are they loyal, right? Do they have a high belief system, meaning it's something that they hold themselves accountable to? Things of that nature. So that's one. Two is competence. Can they actually do the job? Meaning, do they bring some resources, whether mostly intellectual, to the table that I don't have? And also capacity. Do they have the bandwidth to do this? That's something to think about. Along with character, I'm going to circle back to character. Do they have resilience? Right? Because we talked about those days when it gets hard. Are they going to quit when it gets hard? You don't want somebody who's going to quit when it gets hard. Do they understand what they're truly stepping into when they're running a startup or creating a business? Even though you've had this for, it takes a while for a business to really get its footing. Right? That's why we're targeting people in the year 2 to 5 range. Because really is, you've made it somewhat, but it's how do I get to the next level to really have the business that is sustaining itself? I'm able to pay myself and I'm able to build my team and then get to the multi-million-dollar level. And there's a gap I think a lot of people aren't talking about. I don't want to call it Death Valley. It's like, hey, I've survived the first 2 years, but now I'm in my year 2 to 5 and I don't really know if I can keep this as a going concern, right? So that's something you're facing so those are two major things. I'll give some more resources on this. Other than factors, I like to think about, give people micro test or watch people. Everybody says a good game, right? Everybody says, oh, I would do this. I'd just see what will happen. I remember my old business partner. One of the reasons he became my business partner, I brought him in. He didn't start off as a business. When I was starting this business, I wanted to go to meet somebody in Long Island. I was actually one of his connections. This was on a Saturday or Sunday. Long Island, it is far away depending on where you're going in Long Island, right? I didn't have a car at this time. Looking for the least expensive option, had to go out to take the train out to John F. Kennedy Airport, which is already a trip, an hour, hour and a half, right? Trip on the train. And then after that, go there to rent a car because that's the place, the cars were the least expensive, to rent a car, to drive out two hours, I believe, each way to go see this person. And he signed up to do that. He said, okay, I'll come as well. So that was my first thing. Okay, taking the train, going through those steps. All right, I'm seeing that. Second thing that was a good measure of, oh, wow, this guy is serious. Running a business, a lot of times you're working late nights. He would stay. I would be there 12, 1, 2 p.m. 2 a.m., this place called the Gentleman's Factory, where was our co-working space. And he would stay that same time and he would work and I'd see that continue. Like, okay, this is building my level of trust, right? And then also he was willing to risk. A lot of partners, some people don't really want to risk. And you can take partners who don't want the financial risk, but he wanted to risk instead of just saying, hey, yeah, I'll go in on your capital and I'll risk my labor. He was like, I can actually split that. And I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it, but to see somebody has the mindset, hey, I want to split that. So those are some things I'll call the micro tests, or watching people's actions in certain institutions. You can't tell me, hey, I'm going to be more serious about this when I'm in it. I need to see that you're serious about what you're doing, or you're showing that you really care about this in some way, shape, or form. Those are some things. There's plenty more. I think Patrick Bet-David did a phenomenal video on this a few years ago. I think it's like the 10 factors or something to consider when choosing a business partner. It's a great video on that, so I would suggest that as an additional resource.
I will definitely check that out. I really like what you said about the micro tests. I thought that was interesting, kind of keeping like the building trust. Would you say there's obviously there's no concrete time. Like I know you're not gonna be able to say like 6 months is like test time and then that's how I know. But for that specific relationship, how much time would you say passed where you were able to say, you know what, I trust this person? and I'm willing to take a risk with them.
That's good. I think reference checks will help you. First, make sure you're doing reference checks, checking into people's backgrounds, like
Mm,
real reference checks, not like call the person up, check in, make sure you're doing following up. 3 to 6 months,
mm,
I would say, to really get to know somebody and go from there, because people can hide their personality with new people for about 3 to 6 months.
mm,
So that's something to think about, way to evaluate. Don't really jump in for, I would say, 3 to 6 months. And if you want somebody to start, you can say, hey, you can come in and see if this works out, because there should be a testing period for both of you, and say, nope, you're not getting equity for this period, but if you do something, you'll get
mm.
X amount of sales or something. There's other ways to structure it.